Massive crowds outside of the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., showing support for David Hearn, an Olympic canoeist who has been charged by the Trump regime. They charged him with felony vandalism of the reflecting pool. The guy put his hand in it and touched around it because it was this grotesque thing that Donald Trump destroyed, and they needed to scapegoat somebody. And so they went after David Hearn. I mean, again, someone who represented the United States at the Olympics as a canoeist. So in any event, he went to federal court. Let me just show you the story, but let me show you what the crowds looked like outside of the federal courthouse showing support for David Hearn. He's there with his lawyer, friend of the MeidasTouch network, Norm Eisen. Let me show you the crowds. You can see for yourself here. Play this clip. And then Norm Eisen at this press conference talked about, he goes, they charged my client for touching the reflecting pool, for putting his hand in it with a felony. We're going to fight this vigorously, and we are not going to let the Trump regime destroy him. And you saw David Hearn, not the right guy to mess with. There's no one to mess with, but David Hearn is in it for the long run. And I think he understands that he didn't ask for this place in history, but he understands the assignment at this moment. Let's watch as Norm Eisen gave a powerful press conference. Here, play this clip.
Believe this, but you have been charged with alleged damage to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool.
Charged with a felony for touching the reflecting pool. Every American is at risk, and every American should be alarmed about this prosecution. This indictment reflects the administration's effort to scapegoat Davey and to shift blame for their own failures.
Absolutely.
We will litigate these issues vigorously. We have confidence in our justice system to see through this misuse of government power against an ordinary American based on a false and politicized narrative.
I want to note as well, we had the MeidasTouch network, Scott McFarland, show up at the reflecting pool just the other day, and he saw that it was still green, and it also had all of this like ash all over it as well, and it was from the fireworks, and it was a combination of algae green, because guess what? The water source is still the Potomac Basin. That's where algae is. No nano bubbler, as they call it, is going to get rid of it. They give it that. People tried that before. It's not the issue. The issue is algae science. And it still looks horrible, which will be interesting because that will probably be evident. Let me just show you Scott McFarland and what he saw, and then we'll talk about how this could be evidence. Here, play this clip.
Welcome back to the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, which has retained its very swampy green-like color. It's still fenced off. It's still inaccessible. It's still not in its best shape. It is reflecting again, but it's almost like quarantined in its green-like state. In the meantime, there are battles over this reflecting pool in court. Two big ones, including the case of David Hearn, the former Olympian who has just pleaded not guilty to alleged destruction of the pool. His attorneys were dunking all over that case outside the courthouse as David Hearn received a hero's welcome from the crowd here.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they were blaming David Hearn and now the same stuff is happening again without David Hearn is perhaps evidence that David Hearn didn't do anything, but also common sense. Also, the fact that there are 24-hour cameras that are kind of in that vicinity anyway. And David Hearn afterwards, you could see him walk away. He wasn't holding anything in his hand. So what it's going to be laughed out of court. I want to mention this as well. The reflecting pool now, as of this recording, is still green, and it's now been drained for a third time. I guess they think if they keep draining it and refilling it, that's going to fix it. When you thought the 8647 Seashell case, criminal case against James Comey was bad, James Comey is like, all right, this is probably the Guinness Book of Records for the single worst case the DOJ's ever brought or anyone's ever brought, like maybe anywhere, like maybe in world history. This one replaces it. I want to bring in Harry Littman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Substack podcast. Harry, got a lot of people out there showing support for Hearn and Norm Eisen. Now the Trump regime's going to have to put up or shut up when it comes to discovery. They're going to have to show their so-called witnesses. They're going to have to turn over all of the videotape. And now this case becomes an indictment, pun intended, on Donald Trump and the reflecting pool. And the contractor becomes a witness because the contractor put out statements that this was caused by other things. You know what becomes an issue? When Donald Trump drove over the reflecting pool with his motorcade. And that would obviously create certain types of cracks and destruction because that, you know how in cases, you're like, it wasn't me, it was him. Yeah, Trump driving over with his motorcade when they were trying to paint the bottom blue, that's probably something that caused lots of damage too. And so now you have a federal trial. If it goes to trial, it'll probably get dismissed before then, over the reflecting pool. Harry, what do you make of it all?
I'll tell you who else it's an indictment of, Ben, and that is the U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. I was a U.S. Attorney, as you're so kind to often mention, and it is just, page 1 of the manual. You do not make public statements that go beyond the 4 corners of the indictment. Now, this indictment, which is 1 count under local DC law in DC Superior Court, is as bare bones as they come, simply recites the statute and says that Hearn violated it. Of course, that's already a lot for them to have to prove, because by its just the simple charges, they've got to show he intended maliciously to damage it. So even if they had him doing some of the things he did, they'd have to show that somehow this, as you say, former Olympic canoeist and a really comes off extremely well-presented guy was somehow trying to be malicious, and they've got to show damage amounts. But Pirro, instead of just saying, here's what's been charged, she gave all these extremely prejudicial statements about everything they would prove. Well, first, the sort of tough cowboy talk of today's about accountability and the like. But she made these assertions about what they have that, even if they were true, would be completely improper, prejudicial, etc. I read them as a former U.S. attorney, and I say, like, holy shit, what's wrong with her? But if they are false, if she can't cash that check, if she supposedly has witnesses, as she has asserted, that are going to come in and say they saw Hearn grab with 2 hands and tear, and he is completely making it up. His story to me is quite plausible. I don't want the damn, I don't want to take with me a souvenir for them, but it's kind of interesting to touch, etc. If she can't prove those statements in court, to me, that is an absolutely overwhelming case for ethics violation. The U.S. attorney to stand up, talk beyond the record, say all these prejudicial things, and they're lies. Man, oh man. And as you say, Hearn, who could have been, so often they fall sort of phony charges. And my take on him, and actually, let me make a little aside here. Yes, Norm Eisen, the guy is the hardest working man in the legal business. He not only does all this commentary, I do a monthly podcast with him because I'm original member of the Contrarian, as is he, but he's running all over the country to do these cases. God bless him. I don't know if he's been cloned or what, but I wouldn't mind patenting the recipe. But anyway, this guy, I believe, is someone who said, maybe a little bit like Sandwich Guy, they could just I'll bet they gave him some kind of offer, whatever. And it's like, no. Bring it on. Show me your proof that says something that I think is a total crock. And I don't know about you, Ben. We'll have to see if and when it comes to it. but this guy does not seem to be a confabulator to me. So they're going to have to come across with evidence that, and of course, to follow DOJ guidelines. They don't do it. It would be that they really have a case they know they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. I think in DC, it's overwhelmingly likely that this doesn't proceed to conviction, and fairly likely that it doesn't even go to a jury. And yet part of me is rooting for it. I really want to see the day when it's, okay, U.S. Attorney Perot, what do you got? Show us these witnesses who you say saw this and justified actually indicting this guy. And if it's just a lie, and again, this is they've expanded. We first had reprisal prosecutions just to get at his enemies. Now we have them victimizing innocent people because what? He doesn't like them politically, say, the investigation of Newsom, or it's a political, as you say, scandal for him. So let's just take a stray, arbitrary, innocent guy, this guy, and charge him to make Trump look better and support his bogus narrative of it's all been vandals. If all that has happened here about a completely unconnected person and it turns out to be a lie, man, the system should really be coming down hard on Jeanine Pirro, who has just no business. I don't mean being a U.S. attorney. I mean being a paralegal anywhere in any court system in the country.
Everybody, subscribe to Harry Lipman's YouTube page. It's called Talking Feds. Go to one of Harry's videos that he posts. Tell him Ben said hello. Talking Feds, everybody. And subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.